Ready on the right?
Yep.
Ready on the left? I'd call a meeting order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And tonight our invocation will be given by Pastor Doug Parlin, who's been here before. Thank you for your service. This may be his last one before he moves, but we're not sure, so we might get you back. But anyway, have fun in Kentucky. Thank you again for coming.
It's been a joy to meet with you folks 4 or 5 times during the year. And my wife had a serious injury. May 23rd will be 15 weeks ago, brain injury, 5 weeks in the hospital. And God wonderfully answered prayer. But we're scheduled to move to Owensboro, Kentucky, between Nashville and Louisville. And she's going to help homeschool 3 of the granddaughters, 10, 8, and 6. The little boy, which I'm going to teach him to be a good basketball player. That was my sport. And I'm going to be involved in the church there, and also some ministries that I want to get involved in and get started, called Triumph of Praise. On this up here front are some brochures that have my testimony, what happened to me when I was 18 years old. I was raised in the church. I'm not going to go into take time here. But I feel honored to have lived in the best city in Wake County. I believe it with all my heart. You got a great mayor, you got a great staff. When this city does something, they do their best. It's not halfway. And whatever God has and whatever doors opens up for me in the future, I want to do my best to encourage people to love God with all of my heart and to love my neighbor as myself. The passage that I usually read here, sometimes during holidays I may switch, but I think it's very important because government was one of the institutions ordained by God. The family, government, and the church. In Romans 13, I'll read it again. It gives the admonition, and Paul writes to these believers there, and he says, "Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there's no authority except from God. And the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God. And those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to those who do evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For he is God's minister to you for good, but if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. Therefore you must be subject not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. For because of this, you also pay taxes. For they are God's ministers, attending continually to the very thing. That's just part of life. And they usually go up. Render therefore to all their due, taxes to whom taxes are due, customs to whom customs, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Owe no one anything except to love one another. For he who loves another has fulfilled the law. For the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, you shall not covet. And if there is any other commandment, they're all summed up in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor, therefore love is the fulfillment of the law. Let's pray. Father, we want to thank you for the opportunity to live in a city and a community like Holly Springs. Lord, this whole Triangle area is growing fast. We pray for wisdom for the council, for Mayor Sears and all those that work with him. We thank you for the issues that will be discussed tonight. We pray for wisdom and guidance for each one that participates. We pray there might be unity and harmony. And God, as this community continues to grow, we pray for guidance and wisdom to the leadership. We pray, Lord, that the community will be supportive of the council and the decisions will be made will be what's best for the people. And God, that you protect our police force and our fire force, be our teachers. But God, we realize that most of all, everything begins in the home. And God, that was the first institution that you ordained, the family. And God, I ask thy blessing on every family that's represented here. Lord, there may be children and grandchildren that are scattered, just like my 16 grandkids are all different places, except my son and his 4 kids that are here. Lord, I pray your blessing on each home represented. Guide their employment, guide their kids, guide those special needs of whether sickness or disease or hospital or financial needs, whatever it may be. Lord, we're thankful that you said that you're able to do exceedingly abundantly above, beyond all that we could ask or think. So we ask thy blessing on this meeting tonight. May your hand continue to be upon Holly Springs. And Lord, we'll fail not to give you the praise. We thank you, Jesus, for loving us and dying on the cross for our sins and being raised. And you intercede on our behalf. We ask thy blessing on this meeting tonight. And we give you thanks in Jesus' wonderful name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Bon voyage, maybe. Item number 4, adjustment approval of the May 15th, 2018 meeting agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll make the motion to adopt the May 15, 2018 meeting agenda with the following changes. Remove item 6A from the agenda. Remove item 9A from the consent agenda for discussion. Remove item 9E from the consent agenda for discussion.
Your second?
Second.
What's been made second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Item number 5, the public comment period. No one signed up, so we'll open and close the public comment period. And as the Mayor Pro Tem said, the first item 6A has been postponed until June. Item 7A, request communication, Wake County Transportation Demand Outreach highlighting Bike Month. And I think that'll be Kim Johnson. There you are. Welcome aboard. Would you again introduce yourself and where your town is at the podium, please?
My name is Kim Johnson, and I work with Go Triangle, and I provide employer outreach throughout Wake County. I work with all the municipalities and the employers in Wake County that are outside of the Beltline, and that includes Holly Springs. So today I would like to talk about what I do with TDM and with Bike Month, which is the month of May in the Triangle. First, the employer services that we provide, it's commonly called transportation demand management, and what we like to do is efficiently move people. Go Triangle is known throughout the Triangle for the green buses, but we offer a whole lot more than that. And through the work that I do and several of my coworkers and other partners throughout the Triangle, we promote sustainable transportation, which of course includes transit, but it also includes carpooling, vanpooling, biking, walking, teleworking, basically anything to help reduce congestion and to reduce the number of cars that are on the road. We work with employers to help them to either put together a new commuter benefits program, or if they have one, we help them to dust it off and make it fancy again so their employers are interested as well. And so We provide surveys to assess employers' mobility needs. So you may have an employer in Holly Springs that does not have the same needs or abilities as far as transportation options, schedules. There are several variables, and it would be a completely different program that would be reasonable for that employer versus one that's in downtown Raleigh or one that's in another municipality. So some of the benefits of the programs that we provide are employer retention and attraction. We found that employees are attracted to organizations that give consideration to their whole being, and that includes how they get to and from work, if they arrive frustrated, or if there are issues there. And we also help companies to avoid or reduce their parking demand. In a lot of the municipalities, there isn't that they don't have a high parking demand, but we are seeing that as Wake County is growing by leaps and bounds, more and more organizations are beginning to try to figure out how they can grow and not grow parking as well. So it helps to reduce traffic congestion and carbon emissions. And there are savings that can be found for both the employer as well as the employee. Some of the results that our TDM program has found over in the Triangle, each year each dollar that is spent reduces about 30 vehicles, 30 VMT or vehicle miles traveled on the road, and each dollar equates into about 2.5 single occupancy vehicle trips reduced. So looking at Bike Month, the month of May is Bike Month, and on Friday it is our Bike to Work Day. It's celebrated all over the United States on Friday. We have horrible weather this year, so a lot of the events that have been promoted, they are being juggled around to attract people to just try cycling for a work commute. And we get out in the community during this month and help to educate people on cycling and make them aware of the amenities that are available in their community. As far as cycling in Wake Forest, some of the events that I have worked with are the bicycle rodeo in Wake Forest. We work with a lot of little kids, helping them to just get acclimated to being on a bike and how to maneuver. And looking at adults, the Capital City Bike Ride is another one that is very popular, and we do it every single year. So we also work with the universities, and this helps to reduce the need for vehicles on the campus by educating them about safety and how to work on their bikes, and just providing that well-rounded program for biking so that they can be educated bikers, and they find that there's no need between that, and most of the universities have a transit option. So between the two, they're able to get wherever they need to go without bringing another car into the Triangle. And some of the employer events that we work on for Bike Month are Train the Trainer. And we work with last year with the town of Cary, they do a staff ride every year, and we try to get out there and support them. This year we did a commute, a cycle program where we educated people on how to ride safely with mixed traffic. And we have a class coming up in the middle of June to train licensed cycling instructors. So there'll be more people that are able to teach others how to ride a bike and how to ride it safely. And we're also doing the pop-up pit stops. say that 5 times real fast. The pop-up pit stops are kind of like what we do on Bike to Work Day on Friday, but we are urging the community to reach out to us if they would like to provide the same experience in another location. So we'll provide everything they need in order to do a pop-up pit stop. And along with Bike to Work Day, we provide emergency ride home services, which are great whenever you are trying to convince someone to travel anywhere, but especially if you were looking at an adult and you're asking them to travel from home to work and leave their car. There are just so many things that come up that, that fear of what if my kid gets sick, or, what if I get sick or something happens. We provide an emergency ride home program, and that guarantees them a ride home given those circumstances. And we either provide a taxi or a rental car depending on the situation. It's a pretty easy thing to do. We also have our Go Parks incentive program. So each month, to incentivize people to travel another way besides driving by themselves, we offer $400 worth of gift cards, concert tickets, movie tickets, all kinds of things. And you're able to track your trips on the Share the Ride NC site. And then once a month, choose which ones you'd like to participate in order to get gift cards. So that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Questions or comments of Ms. Johnson?
Nope.
Timing is excellent because I just got a message from North Carolina Department of Transportation. It is Motorcycle, Bicycle, and Seat Belt Safety Awareness Month, so your timing is perfect.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Agenda item 6A, public hearing 18 UDO 01 biannual Unified Development Ordinance Amendments. Melissa Sigmund? Yes? Yes, there you are. Welcome aboard, too.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So as noted, the next item are the amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance. This is part of a staff-initiated process. Generally, you'll find that this occurs twice a year in order to keep the UDO as a living document so that it is up to date and being responsive to a number of things. Obviously, we need to keep up with changing state statutes and regulations, also changing conditions in the field, as well as best practices. And as staff uses the code on a daily basis, we will encounter questions from the public and the development community. We may find that the implementation of those regulations can use tweaks here and there. So we're constantly looking at ways that we can improve the code to make it function better for everyone involved. However, you'll notice that the current list of amendments is rather lengthy. We've got a little bit of a backlog of some of these housekeeping amendments, so typically the list isn't quite as long as you'll find this evening, but many of these, they are just a variety of small tweaks here and there to all of the various sections of the ordinance. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that this is a multi-department effort that involved a number of our staff members. So all of lots of folks, our planners and engineers getting together, looking at the various elements of the code to keep it going. So everyone else has put those amendments together. We've worked as a group to make those requested changes. And so I'm just up here kind of representing the group as a whole. So this evening, I don't want to go into too much depth for you. As I mentioned, there's about 33 different amendments. I've got a few that we can provide some kind of background. They're basically examples here and there of some of the different types of changes, those responding to state statutes, those that were just benefits that we saw a need for based on feedback from the community. However, if there if there are any specific questions, I would be happy to address those, but I will only go into as much depth as you'd like to feel comfortable with the proposed changes. The one I would highlight is that, as mentioned, we do get feedback from our residents and questions, and sometimes find there are situations that the code perhaps does not address. One of those in this case was looking at situations where you have a home that has 2 front yards, essentially. It's on 2 streets. So in order to address some concerns, staff received those questions from a resident, researched the situation, and then identified an update to the code that was possible to ensure that we're helping our residents with situations such as having an accessory structure in their backyard. That would be pretty typical.
Sunset Oaks will love you for that.
So as I said, I can go through these in as much depth as you want, but if there are any questions on specific elements, otherwise, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have on the amendments as a whole.
I just want to comment on Part 10. I attended the meeting when you discussed all that, and I was struggling with understanding the residential double frontage, but a resident, maybe the same one, reached out and provided wonderful information. So I encourage any resident, if you want to elaborate, please email us, because I thought that was very useful.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments?
Nope.
Good. At this point in time, we will open the public hearing, but there is no one signed up. So we'll close the public hearing and go to further discussion. Seeing none? We have the planning board recommended approval 9-0, okay? So at this point in time, we have 2 motions, I think. There it is. Number 1.
Motion to accept as true the compatibility statements listed in agenda packet to be recorded in the minutes.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Number 2.
Motion to adopt ordinance 18-03 to approve and enact UDO amendments number 18-UDO-01 to modify the text of the Unified Development Ordinance.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8B, public hearing, annexation A 18.01, 4528 Sunset Lake Road property. Gina Clapp.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So once again, we are here. This time, the petition for voluntary annexation is complete. However, the property owner is assessing their availability and ability to actually connect to the town's sewer system to determine if they would like to seek annexation. And so we are once again deferring action until the next town council meeting, which would be June 5th.
So all we need is a motion, correct?
That's all you need.
Want to tackle?
Motion to defer action on annexation ordinance A 18-01.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Good job, Gina. Agenda item 9A, consent agenda, Mayor Pro Tem.
A motion to approve consent agenda on the remaining items.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Fine, thank you. 10A, unfinished business. This is a bunch of them. 17 SEU 16, 17 DP 16, 17 VARTC 09, 17 VARTC 10, 18 WAV 02, 18 WAV 03. That's the United Community Bank. Sean Ryan. And maybe Elizabeth, right?
So, Mr. Mayor, before
Sure.
you get into that, I think the items for the consent agenda that were removed were put
They're right there, next.
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 So when you remove things from the consent agenda, you put it at the beginning of
Okay.
new business. I don't know if you wanted to address 9A minutes before you jump into that.
Okay, we can do that. You can hang on for a second, Sean. Would you mind reading it, since I can't find it?
9A,
9A
Got it.
on the consent agenda.
and then we'll go to 9A.
Oh, okay, go ahead, yeah. Who wants to do it? I'll do it.
I was, it was brought to my attention by Councilwoman Kelly. She would like the council to consider some text changes to the April 17th minutes.
I've summarized them, I believe, correctly on the screen if you want to take a look at them.
Sure.
And give me directions on what y'all would like them to say.
I thought we were just pulling that item. I'm not prepared to come up with the verbiage right now.
Yeah, I thought this
We could
was
do it
going
on
to
the
be
fly. I thought we were just
discussed
gonna-
at the council meeting, because I'm not prepared. Unless,
I heard different things, so, I mean, there's,
Someone wants to make a motion to table it for the next
Yeah.
meeting, approve the minutes of the next
That's
meeting.
what I thought we were. That's what I thought we were doing.
That's all you
Yeah.
have
That's
to
what
do,
I
is make a
thought.
table.
That's what I thought.
I'll make a motion to table the minutes to the next meeting.
second?
Motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Was there another one? 9E, I think.
9E.
I don't know what's happening. Hold
Want
on.
to do the same thing, council, or not?
Sure. 9E was pulled, and that was the Lighthouse Recruiting lease, or really it's a license agreement.
Right.
And it's to use the old police station next door. Currently, it's being used as the co-working station by the Lighthouse Recruiting LLC, who are I think by all practical purposes, the Harold brothers, who are constructing Malbec. And the request is that lease terminates, help me out, Paul. March 2019, thank you. March 2019, and the thought is they may need a little bit more time in order to construct the block development. So that the desire is to go to a month-to-month lease after the lease terminates, with an absolute end date of December 2019. So what was put for you in consent agenda was a license extension agreement, basically, for approximately $3,000 a month. And that amount is what they're currently paying right now. Their lease has got sort of a declining scale to it, so that in the last part of the lease, in December of this year to March of next year, they go to a payment of $5,000 per quarter, which is about $1,667 a month. And the justification that we had back in the day in making that lease was that the Herolds are young entrepreneurs. I can call them young because they're younger than me. Young entrepreneurs, and they need the capital to build their new building. So that was sort of the justification in doing that, to sort of give them a break. So when we put it together, we put it with the current today's lease amount of $3,000 per month, and the request is to reduce that to $1,067 a month. And that's, I mean, make no mistakes, I think that's a below market lease rate or license rate for that structure. And that thing, I think everybody agrees that that's a, it's a benefit. It's a low market rate, but hopefully we're talking just a couple months on the month-to-month basis while the block is being finished up.
So we're just asking for an extension at $5,000 per quarter, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anything else, council?
That's it.
For a couple months or for March to December?
March.
9
So
months.
it is from March until such time as they're ready to move into the block. We don't know yet because they haven't gone vertical yet on when that would be, but I just put an absolute drop dead end date of December, so it could be until December. Hopefully, I think the anticipation will be about 4 or 5 months when they get in July of 2019. But construction delays and such like that. Could.
Other questions or comments to the counselor?
I want to thank Arena for helping me understand more behind what has gone behind this deal. I fully understand the Catalyst project and the loss leader that you want to do investing, and I see this as what has been going on. For the council, Mary also was helping me. There are some expenses that we're taking as well to help them for that building. But even with that, I think that we're investing in this Catalyst project, and it's a unique opportunity. I'm ready.
I saw your email too, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Need to make a motion? Yes?
Yeah, we could just make a motion to approve the license extension with the lease license amount at $5,000 per quarter.
Okay. Here we go.
Motion to approve an addendum to the license and use agreement with Lighthouse Recruiting for the co-working station.
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Ciao. Thank you. Now we go back to 10A, unfinished business, and Sean, you're on.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Sean.
Just want to reintroduce you to the project. Again, this is a special exception use and development plan request number 17 SEU 16 for a new project in the Town Village District. This is for United Community Bank located at 120 North Main Street. This project was last before the Town Council at their meeting in April. There were some questions for the applicant and the item was tabled. The applicant is here tonight to address your questions, but just to kind of refresh you on the site plan and the orientation of the project. This is Arp Street along the top of the screen here. This is Main Street along the side under my mouse here. The proposal is for a 2-story bank with 2 drive-through windows and associated parking and landscaping. There were 2 variance requests with the project, one for a setback reduction along Arp Street and one to allow for drive-through ATM service lanes on the project. Proposed landscaping, including all of the street tree requirements, parking lot landscaping, foundation landscaping as the UDO requires. Just to refresh your memory on the proposed building elevations, this is what would face Main Street, this is what would face Arp Street, and the 2 associated waivers that we discussed, the building bay reduction waiver and the waiver of the window and glass door requirements. With that, I would, I guess, turn it over to the applicant to come up to address council's questions. I will add that late last week I did receive a proposal from the applicant to revise the landscaping plan as shown on the screen here, and I will let them walk through this plan with you guys.
Okay. Applicants, please come forward, or applicant. How you doing? Just for the record, repeat name and address, please.
My name is Mike Sicardo with Weatherall Engineering. We are at 1223 Jones Franklin Road in Raleigh. And I'm here to, I believe, answer these 3 items. I think the first item was the entrance off of Main Street. There was a recommendation that we do not have the entrance off of Main Street, and the bank is pretty firm on wanting that entrance off of Main Street. We've been working with staff for a good 6 months now, maybe a year or so, and we kind of feel like we abided by the rules and pretty much came up with a site plan which is very similar to what's in the ordinance for the town village. It's been a long road. We wanted our own driveway for security purposes, and this project started on almost a 2-acre piece of property. We cut it down to a smaller portion, agreed to a joint driveway, and so we feel pretty strongly that this site plan needs to have that access off of Main Street. The second item with the request for a walk-up ATM is really frowned upon by the bank. Jeff Pope, the regional president for United Community Bank, is here tonight if he needs to reinforce that for you, but we don't feel that was not part of our original plan, and after speaking with Mr. Pope, we feel very confident that the drive-through ATM is an ATM available to anyone, and it's well lit under the canopy at night. So in that sense, there is an ATM downtown. It's just not on the front of the building where they do not want it. And the third item, we've proposed some additional plantings along the back in lieu of the few trees that were taken down across the front of the property. And if I could say something about that, maybe the trees were taken down prematurely, but in all due respect, I think those trees were going to come down eventually. With the requirement of having to put in the 12-foot wide sidewalk. We're extending a public sanitary sewer up through the front, and knowing the request and the ordinance of having the frontage of the building within 15 feet of the right-of-way, I'm not sure how that tree could have stayed there anyway. My client is sorry for pulling them down earlier without the proper permit, but I think my client has also sent a letter to the town manager making a recommendation that we help out, or he help out with the road improvements across the street for a business that's trying to go in there. I could get into that more in depth. There's a copy of the letter in the packet, but does anyone have any questions?
Questions or comments?
Can you talk about those road improvements a little more? Like what the road improvements for the neighboring business that were discussed? What was discussed? What is?
I would have to ask my client to come up and explain that, because I don't know all the details on that.
Okay. Please come forward.
Derwood, would you?
Whoever wants to. Talking about across the street, yes?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yep.
Pimento House, I believe, or something like that.
Yep. Pimento Timber. Yep.
I don't know the details of it, or I would mention it to you.
That's understandable.
I apologize for pointing out a security issue, and yesterday, the 2 hearing aids I had was at the frequency.
Okay.
Not a problem. Okay. Name and address, please.
I'm Jeff Pope. I'm the market president for United Community Bank. Prior to that, worked with Four Oaks Bank as the chief banking officer for 27 years. So, one of the reasons we want to be downtown is we truly consider ourselves a community partner. We are highly involved in every community that we're in, and we just feel that to support the community the way it needs to be supported, the closer to downtown we can be, the better we can serve it. We also provide a rather strong foundation for continued growth. And we've been downtown. We like what we've done downtown, and we want to continue to be downtown.
More specifics on next door? Anybody have that? Across the street?
On the road improvements that were being offered to,
That's the point.
for, with the new business next door?
I would think that we would be fine with anything that's recommended by Derwood and Jimmy. I mean, we want to do what we can do to get down here. We've gone through a lot so far. We have to have, our objectives are from an entrance and an exit standpoint. We have to have flow for parking. It's obvious. We have to have flow to get people in and out of the drive-through. We also have to have proper flow so when people are exiting their vehicles to come into the bank, that traffic doesn't back up and create what we consider a hazard for people coming from the parking to the bank.
Understand? More questions?
I think we have to get back to yours.
Yeah, I guess my question is, what sort of agreement do we need to have with them for these improvements to make sure that it's all documented and, you know, I don't know if it has to be a condition as part of their special use or what, but what do we have to do to?
And what agreements were made?
None that I'm aware of. You would typically get into a development agreement prior to getting to this stage, you know, on sort of road improvements, but
I think the idea is great. I want to have some recourse to make sure that we can follow through on that.
Right,
yeah, I don't know what's needed for the adjacent property, and therefore I wouldn't know what conditions to put on it. It would probably take some more discussion at staff level before that, you know, we could.
Do we have any further information on that discussion? Because the owners of the property have come in and requested certain things, and I just think we need to button that down if we can.
And we know there was a discussion, so we wanted to know what that discussion was.
Again, name and address, please.
I'm Jimmy Boykin. I'm with Stevenson General Contractors and MDER with Stevenson Associates. The United Community Bank is our client, and we are developers. When that letter was written to the town attorney, we had no idea how to make restitution for our mistake. We suggested that maybe if a development were going across the street, we could contribute extra plantings to that. To what extent, we did not determine. In the meantime, we came up with this plan that you just saw on the screen to add extra planting and 3 fairly large trees to the rear of the lot that we plan to leave vacant as a buffer between that residential neighborhood. Those plantings aren't part of the required landscaping for our development, but we just offer that as a suggestion to make restitution for taking down the 2 trees along Main Street. I think, as Mike alluded to, that the 2 trees that were removed, we didn't see any foreseeable development on that lot that could have saved those trees. So they would have come down eventually, we think, in part of this development, given that we must bury underground utilities along that path of those trees as part of the town village requirement, along with the sidewalk, which has to go there. Given all those parameters to deal with, there was no way we could save those trees. So we're really not talking about restitution for conservation of the trees, but we are recognizing that we didn't do it in the proper order, and we didn't do it in the proper permitting. And so we're offering this suggestion of extra planting at the rear of that lot between us and the neighborhood behind us as a way of restitution for that. Any other questions?
Again, specifics across the street, has that been discussed?
No, it has not.
Has not.
And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be across the street, Mr. Mayor. It could be wherever the town needed something. And that's, of course, that'd be you to determine for us. As I recall, last month we were talking about, you know, what will the penalty be? These are just a couple of suggestions we're making.
Several.
We're certainly open to anything that the town would recommend to us. Did that kind of clear it up?
Kind of. Comments? Yeah. I'm not sure that's enough.
I think we don't know, right? I mean, I like the suggestions. I'm glad the applicant came back after our feedback last time with something, right? So we have a plan that has some additional trees now, which is great. I'm still confused on what's required, right? I'm looking at the email that Mr. Stevenson sent, quoting helping out, which is, you know, great. I just want to make sure we get that documented. What are those things? What are we going to help? What are you going to help with? And make sure we have that agreement in place to be comfortable with what you're proposing.
I would suggest that this amendment to the plantings that we've offered be made part of our approved landscaping plan. That would assure that you get exactly what we propose.
I understand that. Is that all we're considering is the additional landscaping, or is this discussion about helping with other road improvements part of?
That's entirely up to the council.
I think that was a request from the people next door, I think.
I think we're just reading straight from the letter, so we're just trying to understand what is said in the letter, which I'll say in part, the improvements required on their property along Arp Street are imposing a financial hardship on the planned small business. Perhaps we could partner with them on the street improvements to ease the financial strain and compensate for the loss of the trees. Just a suggestion that seems to benefit the entire community. And I think the council is amenable to that, but we just want to know more specifics.
I think we were hoping to get a recommendation from the town, not knowing any more about that project than we know.
I guess the question is, how do we?
Maybe it's a fee in lieu or something that I don't know what the answer is.
Has any more been discussed?
My recollection.
Elizabeth.
My recollection was something about the width of the street.
Well, let's see what Elizabeth.
Yeah.
She is.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. I can speak to what the restaurant that is looking at the property across the street, what their required road improvements would be. And I'm going to back up one screen. So very much like what is done on Arp Street along the frontage of this property, the frontage of the project across the street, I believe, only goes to about here. And there would be requirements to do curb and gutter, sidewalk, and a little bit of widening. So the improvements along this stretch do involve some additional trees that need to be navigated around with some boardwalk for the sidewalk. That's already been something we've been looking at of how to accommodate that.
Right.
So that would be something that would need to be looked at. But the improvements would be approximately this point up to the intersection, curb and gutter, and sidewalk.
And how about the existing tree or two there, do you remember?
The trees that are on that side,
Side, they're close.
I believe they're anticipating being able to keep those in place
That's my
and
question.
work the sidewalk around it. It is going to require a waiver of our requirements for sidewalk, but it's something we've been working with them on what that would look like.
Okay.
So the specifics of those improvements are shown on another development plan. How we connect that to this one, that is something I'm not quite sure what the best way is to do
Yeah,
that.
I'm not sure either.
Elizabeth, do you have any idea of what the cost would be for those improvements on the Pimento Tea Room side?
I don't know that we have any even ballpark on that. I was not realizing we needed to prepare that piece of information, so I'm not sure what that would be. It is not a lot of asphalt. It is mainly curb and gutter along that stretch. It's just a couple of feet of asphalt if it is much at all. So we could probably get that cost estimate. It is something that would be reasonable for us to probably help work with the engineer who's doing that to get some. I don't even know how many feet it is, honestly. But we could get that information, and there could be a cost estimate provided, and we could determine an actual fee amount.
Just a rough guess?
Unfortunately not. I don't.
And that's not above and beyond. That development would have to do those road improvements.
You're taking an
When they
improvement.
come before town council with their development plan, they would have to do those anyway.
Right.
It sounds like what's being proposed is that the bank would just do those existing required improvements for them. So I don't know that it's anything above and beyond what would be required of the restaurant. It's just having a different contractor do it.
Well, that's what I think. That's what I hope, but it's kind of hard to pin it down. Any suggestions on how to pin it down?
You ask
So the bank do both sides instead of just their side. What are you saying? Sorry.
Does that make
It sounds
sense?
like what the agreement that they're proposing is that they would do that. I guess there's some benefits to having one contractor do it. I don't know that it makes up for lost trees. I mean, that's for y'all to decide. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But I'm
Right.
trying to, I'm a little confused. It sounds like anytime you can combine a couple projects and get a better product, it's good. It's good. But I'm just not sure if that's being proposed in lieu of maybe something else that you wanted. I don't know.
Ballpark, 50,000, 100,000?
More than 50,000.
More than 50?
The length is 130 feet, if that helps you any.
Okay.
I've been talking to quite a few of the owners that had expressed concern about the trees being gone and then knowing that this is in their area. And they were, of course, they know the tree can't come back. So that's part of what the shock is over. Knowing that the town is moving forward with Tree City initiatives, which I hope will get passed with the budget, is helping because they know that moving forward, the town is going to have a different perspective on preserving trees. So that has helped the discussion. The big thing was the access to pedestrian walkability to the ATM was really big. Because if it's a community bank, it's downtown. That was probably the thing. You know, I can get over the trees if we know the town's changing their behavior on how we're going to move forward with trees and send that message but it was the walkability of the ATM was kind of what they were.
Right. If we're having a walkable downtown, having to get in your car to drive to the drive up to the ATM does not make sense. Especially with it be, maybe being our only ATM down there.
I can ask Mr. Pope to speak to that, but he will tell you that 99% of the crime that takes place at an ATM machine is at a walk-up ATM machine. And our bank really discourages that kind of liability, and I don't think the town wants that liability for their citizens either.
Even, I'm not sure of the indoor design, but even an indoor vestibule, we walk in, ATM, and then another door into the bank.
I'll have to ask Mr. Pope.
Is Chief Herring here? We have an outdoor ATM at the Food Lion area. What's the crime on that? Because I think that's, if it's well lit, it's part of downtown, I think that's really what people are looking for.
Well, we would be looking at an exterior ATM. The huge majority of our traffic and our transactions are drive-up transactions. And there is a cost in an ATM. There's a cost with every transaction that goes through there. If you look at a drive-up compared to a walk-up, there's no fair comparison with the number of transactions. I would think that any banks, I agree, if we have one in the building, which still opens up security concerns as far as the bank's concerned. We're not like Food Lion where you walk in the bank, walk in the grocery store. But I would think that any law enforcement, any bank security officer would tell you, do not install a walk-up ATM on your premises, because there's no protection at all for the customer. You walk up, it's obvious you're going to do a transaction related to money. And when 99+% of the robberies, and thankfully there's not a lot of robberies anywhere because there's not a lot of walk-up ATMs, but the way that this is designed on the back lane, anybody can walk up to it. It'll be as well lit as a full walk-up. It just won't, it'll have both capabilities.
Chief, do you mind coming up and making a comment? The question was, with the walk-up ATM versus the one that you see on the screen that is technically could be both.
The question is, how is the Food Lion? How many crimes are at the Food Lion or people using the ATM?
ATM in the parking lot.
I don't have the number. There have been some there, but we do live in the safest town in North Carolina, maybe in the United States. So ours is going to be lower than what these statistics. I find it hard to believe 99%. But I will say this, that you are more susceptible to I guess, being a victim of a crime, that nature of a crime at a walk-up versus a drive-up. I can tell you that. Whether or not 99% of them happen at a walk-up, I don't know where that statistic came from. I'm not familiar with that. It wouldn't hold true for Holly Springs. So I don't know. That's all I can tell you.
Any other questions, Chief? No? Thanks, sir. Okay, where are we?
So just to clarify what you just said, the ATM drive-through is still fully accessible to pedestrians or to vehicles. The drive-through ATM is accessible to pedestrians. It's just inconvenient.
So, but what is the safety-ness of walking to that one behind the building compared to walking to the one at the front of the building? It's no safer to walk behind. So I guess it's more convenient being out front, and you're not worried about cars coming around that corner or coming up and running you over if you're walking up to it, especially with, like I said, the walkable downtown. I picture people at the farmer's market running over to get cash, or, anything like that, food truck rodeo, whatever. That's where that walk-up ATM was.
That was the feedback I had. They could, go
I do understand and respect what you're trying to say, and you're great from an aesthetic standpoint of what you're trying to do. I totally agree with you, but I do have concerns from a security standpoint, and that's on a long history of, I just know when you're out of your car, you're more susceptible to something to happen. You might have a walk up over there and be there 100 years and not have an issue. We might have a drive-through over there and somebody get robbed in the first week. I can't judge. I'm just trying to go on the numbers, and I don't have to know what that 99% is the last 5 years. I don't know if it's state of North Carolina. I don't know if it's Southeast. I just know it's easier to take advantage of a customer at a walk-up. If you got a lot of people around there, yeah. I would have to go back to the people in Greenville about a walk-up because they are not fans at all of walk-ups. So that would be much above my pay scale to get that approved.
Okay, anything else on that subject?
I think we have to ask the question, Mr. Pope, would the bank be willing to help contribute to the improvements across the street where the restaurant would be?
That's where my point was, yeah.
So I guess that's my question. Would you help contribute, pay for some of that?
I would definitely say we would be open to that. As I said before, I don't know what number we're talking about. I don't know, we would take a look at it. It's obvious with what we've gone through here, which is requirements. I understand the requirements. I fully understand that. But it's obvious we want to be a part of the downtown community. And if we can better the downtown community at a reasonable expense, that's in our best interest. So I would say we would definitely take a hard look at doing whatever we needed to do.
A sidebar, the bank, as it stands right now, their lease is running out. What's the date on that? Is that the lease is running out on the bank, existing bank when? Do you remember? Four Oaks.
The lease.
The lease on the existing building.
19 months, does that sound right, Scott? 19 months, okay. Just a factor. I'm not saying good, better, in between, just a factor of the decision-making process, okay? Thank you. No problem. It's no problem. What else?
So the bank got purchased, right? The new bank is just as committed as Four Oaks was to our community and our downtown and being a part of it. I think that's what I'm hearing you say. So I just want to make sure that the new bank is just as committed as what Four Oaks has always been, in this community.
Good point.
Well, we haven't been a part of their bank long, but I could tell you they have a strong commitment. We have maintained all our sponsorships since they've been here. United Community Bank was, for the 5th or 6th straight year, received the top J.D. Powers Award for customer service in the Southeast. And to do that, you have to be a part of the communities. Everybody that's ever worked for me know we are no better than communities we serve, is really what it comes down to. So every benefit we give the community, we always get some payback. It might not be in profits, but there's some payback. And I am sure that the United Community Bank will continue to be a big player in every community that they're in.
And they want to build this building still, right, the new bank?
Yeah.
What else?
If we can get a commitment for the bank to help with the road improvements adjacent to them, across the street from them, I don't know what the dollar figure is. I don't know. We don't have that. It's more than $50,000, right, Kendra?
It's hard to say not knowing, but it's probably somewhere 40 to 70,000. I don't know the extent of those improvements, but if we're in that ballpark, that's probably safe to say.
I would think another $40,000 would not stand in the way of us having our bank on that lot.
Okay.
So you all have got some waivers and some findings of fact to make, and most of which go towards community standards. That this use is going to be in keeping with the downtown, and from what I hear you say, you may require, in order for you to find favorably, that you may need some additional road improvements along Earp Street and at Earp and Main in order to enhance the character of the community, in order so that this use fits into the downtown area. And maybe you're not ready to make the findings yet until you understand what can be done to improve that corner, in essence.
That
and then we can come
and
back.
I think revisiting the local walkthrough environment. Is there a way, even if it's a drive-through, could there be more lights or something? Because we do need another teller downtown, like an ATM.
I will take back the suggestion for a walk-up. I have a conference call, too many of them. I have one in the morning. And I will just run that across the president of community banking for the bank and say, hey, if this is something that's a must. Because we don't want to go in there with anybody up here not being happy with what we did there, or anybody out there not being happy with what they did there, or anybody that's not here not being happy with that. So I will take that and run it across to him, see what he comes back and said. I know they're not a fan of them. You can hear I'm not a fan of them.
We hear that.
But there are exceptions to everything.
As Chief Herring said, we are one of the safest towns. And I think for our community and the neighbors, I think they think that would be a wonderful addition to our downtown.
I will see what we can do, but I can make no promises.
I understand.
What else?
Thank you for planting more trees.
Oh, and we're kind of wanting to make sure that tree across the street, am I correct? Kind of stays if it can. We talked about that several times. So it just, the big tree that's on, or pretty close to the corner. On the other side.
Yeah, you meant to, yeah.
Good.
Correct, right. Right.
But that was a big request from not only us, but from the owners next door too. Am I correct? Yes, I get a yes. Okay. Good enough.
Thank you.
So we're looking to table this for further review of the walk-up ATM and hardening of the Arp Street improvements?
Yeah, I think we got to get a firm agreement in place. I think that's the best thing to do.
Right.
Okay.
And I appreciate your patience in working with us and as you said, trying to make this a product that everybody in this room and outside this room will be happy with. Thank you.
Yeah, this is our whole downtown is really a very big and important project, and we want to make sure every aspect of it is perfect. And so
We take pride in everything we do, like you take pride in what you're doing here. So.
And I commend Four Oaks has been a wonderful community
they sure have.
partner. I've had lots of nonprofits that have worked with the bank, and the staff is fabulous. So they do have the character that we want downtown.
Okay.
I hope it works out.
Question to staff, can we do this at the next meeting? I hate to keep putting it off.
It's the fifth Tuesday
15th.
month, so it's,
June.
so staff reports are not due until Monday, the 28th.
So what does that mean?
Tuesday, the 29th, it's a holiday.
So what does that mean?
A little bit more time.
I'm looking.
We have to have their engineer do a cost estimate, provide a cost estimate. Then it sounds like we have to have some sort of developer agreement done.
I guess.
I've never seen one happen that quickly.
Second meeting in June?
We'll draft it, we'll put something in there with language, maybe some back and forth, quick and efficient. I think we would try as hard as we can. I'm just historically speaking that they usually don't go that quick when you get two attorneys talking about comments. And then is there a plan revision that's needed? I guess if the ATM question, if they talk about it.
Yeah.
In a landscape plan, there might need a plan revision to be made and getting that in and reviewed. June 5th is kind of aggressive.
June 5?
Second.
June
2nd. Second?
Or June 2nd, I mean, yeah.
The second meeting in
The
June.
second meeting in June,
which is
the 19th, maybe a little bit more realistic.
So The second meeting in June, we think we can wrap this up one way or the other. Is that correct with all the information we need?
Is there anything else that council, taking a look at this right now, that we need them to?
Good point.
To bring back, just so?
That's all I heard, but I'm listening.
Pretty good with that.
Okay. Any comments?
Thank you. Appreciate it. If my wife calls, will you please tell her I cannot hear?
I heard you.
All right, so we need to make a motion to table?
One thing I just wanted to add really quick, we were trying to jump in. If the site is over 1 acre of disturbance, we do have to have the stormwater treatment. And so that would be a plan revision that we'd probably be looking at, also seeing on here. If it doesn't, then we'll handle it in construction drawing review. But if we're revising plans, we might end up doing that as well. So.
Do we know that at this point, Kendra, whether it does or does not have to have that?
If they have over 1 acre of disturbed area, by state law, they do have to treat their stormwater. And they're real close, and I think there's been some talk, maybe they're a little bit over. Do you know for sure?
1.24 acres.
Okay.
I know pretty well.
And if they're adding improvements, that'll definitely trigger. So yeah, I think if we shoot for the second meeting in June, coming back with plan revisions and a developer agreement.
Possible?
Elizabeth, can we handle that as a condition of the approval? I'm not sure we could get it designed and go through your review process. I don't know how detailed you need.
I think we could shoot for it, and then if we can do a condition, I think we could probably do something like that too.
Do we need the folks from the Pimento Tea Room to say that this is something they would like us to move forward with? Or are we just assuming that they're here?
Sorry.
If they're looking for road improvements on their side, yeah, do we need their?
I would think we definitely would be talking to the tea. I mean,
yeah,
from a legal
Could they be part of the agreement?
Yeah, I mean, in essence, it could be a 3-party agreement between the town, the bank, and the Pimento Tea folks. And it would be.
Been done.
I would have to assume that they would want these improvements made in order to fulfill their site plan.
Right.
But you're right, we can't make any assumptions, but we'll bring them into the fold.
Okay. I'm looking to see if they're smiling back there. I tell.
So shall we shoot for the second meeting with our fingers crossed? I'm asking. Yes?
Second meeting in June.
We'll aim for it.
Kendra?
June
All right.
19th.
I'm looking at Kendra. She's like,
So there's the applicant, and I think we will try the best we can.
Sure. Okay.
And it's not
Okay.
just town staff, it's going to be a
Yes.
joint, yeah.
Yeah, so I think
Okay.
if we all move towards that goal, we will try to make it.
Okay. This we can do?
Yep.
Motion to that effect, please.
So a motion to table this till the second meeting in June?
June.
Second.
Motion been made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Do our best. Agenda item 10B, unfinished business, open seats on the Park and Rec Advisory Committee. Adam, do you want to say anything? Or is Adam even here? Here he is. You want to say anything? Okay, we're good. Let's go to, hang on. Let's go to what we agreed on based upon their applications. We have one seat to replace Kimberly Henry, who was an employee. So I'm going to read the name, or no, what we're going to do is, you got all the names, right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's start with Dan again, just like we did last time, and give me your vote for which person, and I'm going to take the notes.
Yeah.
And why, of course.
Sure. The process we did last time just kind of went back through the same thing, evaluated not only geography but qualifications, and again, still the same pool of applicants we had, very qualified. It's great to see that throughout the town. That being said, for the final spot, I think I will recommend Alice Reese to the board.
Alice Reese. Okay. Sherry?
As I did at the last time, Alice Reese was one of my recommendations, and I will recommend Alice Reese, please.
Okay, thank you. Pete?
What Dan said, great pool of applicants. It's no easy job to narrow it down to one for this time, but I also will recommend Alice Reese. I think what she's doing right now on the board has been terrific, and her communication with other committee members, and not only that, but her background in parks development, I think would be a great benefit.
Let's finish it out. Tom?
Okay. A great pool of applicants, of course, a lot of qualified individuals. This person I chose has worked with a large city in Syracuse, New York, and has worked with the NCAA and has dedicated himself to helping and has the experience working in with government, and that would be Jeff Palumbo.
Okay. Christine?
I wanted to also stay with my original third person was Jeff Palumbo, partly because of the geography and we have quite a concentration around the 4 people now within a block for Parks and Rec, and I think having somebody represented on that part of town is important, so I would stay with my Jeff Palumbo vote.
We have 3 votes for Alice Reese and 2 votes for Jeff Palumbo, so it's Alice Reese. We need a motion.
Motion to appoint Alice Reese to the Parks and Rec Committee.
Second?
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for all the work you do. Okay, let's go to... Agenda item 11A, new business, wayfinding, signage, fabrication, and installation consultant selection. Melissa, you're back.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. To give you a brief background, to refresh everyone's memory, the Wayfinding Sign project kicked off in late 2016. We went through an initial phase 1 that involved having a consultant do the initial designs and map the locations for the wayfinding signs. We've now come back for the second phase. We had an RFP out to request proposals for the final engineering design, construction design, fabrication, and installation of the wayfinding signs that were previously designed. We had a multi-department evaluation committee that did review the RFP responses that we received this spring. And at this point, we would like to move forward with recommending a vendor. The wayfinding sign system that was previously recommended by council does include 2 sizes of wayfinding signs with a multi-panel design as shown on the screen, incorporating our current branding and color scheme so that they will integrate nicely with other town features. The proposal will include 40 sign locations that will direct a variety of traffic types to major locations throughout town. As you can see on the map's a bit tiny, but the black boxes show locations of signs and the blue circles show some of our local attractions. So this will help folks find all of the great amenities that are already existing in town. As a result of the RFP process, the RFP recommendation committee has suggested that Signs Etc. be the proposed vendor for phase 2 of our wayfinding project. The images on the screen show some examples of local projects that they've done throughout North Carolina and in the Triangle area as well. With this, we would ask council to select Signs Etc. so that we can move forward with phase 2 of the project and negotiate a specific contract.
Just a quick question before we do that. Were there other companies involved in this program? And if you have them, fine. If you don't have them, fine.
For the RFP, Mayor?
Yeah.
Yes, we received 5 responses from throughout the country, both local, in-state, as well as far away as New York. So we had a good selection to choose from with a variety. It was a competitive process, and the company chosen has a strong wayfinding background specifically, but we had a number of really strong competitors.
Any other questions?
I had a question about the color black on white, because I was looking at a readability matrix of our value that you have black on white. Did we pick black on white, or did they recommend, or sorry, white on black, or did they recommend white on black?
Councilmember Kelly, I'm not certain as to who initially discussed the color, if those were presented as options. I believe that at least 2 options were presented to council for preference, and this was the chosen option.
Because I was looking, I think, when you looked at their other signs, there is numbers that they give for readability, and white on dark blue, or I mean, there's different versions. I think last time we had changed the black background because it seemed very stark. So I didn't know whether that was something that we would want to look at. The most readable signs, and if it turns out that in our color palette, white on black is, but it would be great if we could have, if you look back and see white on dark blue or something.
Did we?
And I don't remember approving these.
Yeah, I don't remember approving these. I remember approving the big, what's it called, coming into town signs.
Gateway.
Yeah, Gateway, thank you. But I don't remember the approving.
These were included in the January workshop with, that Justin presented, and then they were also sent out via email for confirmation.
That's, okay, so way back, and we did the.
So we did that already?
Yes.
I can't remember.
Okay, so, because I do remember saying.
And these have already been through and
that's
vetted
right.
through
January
NCDOT
way
for
back.
approval. So this is the design that's been authorized by NCDOT.
Yeah, because this is the one where I thought it looked just like Cary signs. And I just, the colors.
These do not.
The colors
The,
of the blue
the original
colors.
colors did, and that's when they got changed to the black. So they did not
that's
match.
Right. That's right.
So the black background was approved twice or once or whatever?
Yes.
Yes? Yeah, I don't remember.
I do know.
Counselor, you remember?
I remember you all making a decision and then it going to design, and then this is what we got.
Your memory's better than mine. That's why I remember.
No, I remember going through it and talking, going back and forth about a few of them.
All right.
Because the original readability did come through, talking about on the original ones.
Okay.
Melissa, were they the lowest bidder?
Councilmember O'Brien, I do not know that they were the specifically lowest bidder. We had a number of factors that we did review with the RFP process criteria that included the pricing for the with the product requested. They were competitively priced. We had a number of vendors who provided options so that we had options to choose from in terms of the design. This particular vendor provided options for cost-effective, cost savings in terms of the design. So their final option that we will choose will be very competitive. With their initial proposal, it was right in line with others.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
What is the life of these signs? How long do we expect them to be?
Councilmember Kelly, I don't have a precise lifespan. However, one benefit of the design that was previously chosen is that the sign panels are swapped. They can be swapped out so that as different amenities change or features, if an individual sign panel was damaged, we'd have the ability to replace that one blade as opposed to having to replace the entire sign. So that does give us a little bit of extra longevity.
Good question.
Right, because we did talk about something, especially with downtown, if we changed the street or something like that. We did talk about that.
And the signs will be produced with typical street sign materials. So of the same grade, that would be the 3M reflective material standards that you would find on street sign blades. So similar to that type of quality.
They won't fade over time. They will remain sharp and clear.
The expectation is that they are made for this application.
So I don't think white on black was the highest rating for readability. Could somebody confirm that? If it is, then I'm fine with it. If not, I think a blue. So, do you know what I'm talking about? They're, yellow on blue or white on blue,
Councilmember Kelly, I believe it was mentioned that previously the decision was to not go with blue due to the similarity to Cary. So that may have been part of the initial approval process. I wasn't here at the time, so I don't know the specifics.
But Gina, the question again remains, this was approved previously, as far as you know, at least twice, is that correction?
That is correct. I'm not necessarily familiar with readability scales and what the differences are. However, this has gone through a rigorous review process through the North Carolina Department of Transportation. We have received our permits based upon this design and this color scheme. So we would have to go back through the NCDOT system if we make any changes to the signage. That took about 4 or 5 months.
So future
I mean, and if
readability
if that's the will of the council, we will do that.
Right. Readability to me is more important for us, so I guess it's too late to bring that up.
I think so, but I'm not sure.
Well, I think readability would have been the key factor in the design. I don't know if it's the most readable, but I don't think it's unreadable, right?
It's readable, but if you look at the factors and you look at the palette, I think I'm prone to looking at what we said. Okay.
I mean, if we want to ask.
But they have to go back to DOT.
Sign Quest and ask them. I mean, but I know we need approval tonight.
That's what you're looking
at. Mayor and Council. They will be more centered as well, right? I mean, the examples. So they'll look after that, and the font is in our palette, all that stuff.
Councilmember Kelly, the font, I believe, is actually dictated by DOT standards and will follow those regulations. In terms of the final design, we have taken this forward, given previous approvals. We have the ability to work with our consultant to make some changes. However, their bid is based on this essential design.
Other questions or comments?
The budgeted amount, was that part of this year's budget, or is that, I feel like I recall that the same amount in next fiscal year's budget?
Councilmember Berry, that amount is to be spread over 2 fiscal years so that we could apply the balance of the funds not expended in this fiscal year to next fiscal year. So this is a total amount. Currently in the current budget, there is $100,000 to support the project. The expectation is that by carrying it across the fiscal year, we will begin the project now, receive some cost savings and benefit by purchasing and having the construction and fabrication in bulk. However, this is the total amount over the 2 fiscal years. So we will begin the process as soon as we receive the contract approval and expect that the majority of the funds based on the current calendar date will actually occur next fiscal year.
And that 200 was the total cost,
correct? Mm-hmm.
In 2 years, correct?
Correct.
2 years, yeah. Okay. Other questions or comments? Do I want to go to the motion, or do you want to talk more about that?
Good.
Good?
Good.
Motion to select Signs, etc. as the chosen vendor to provide the service contract for final design, fabrication, and installation of wayfinding signs, and authorize the town manager to negotiate terms of a contract with Signs, etc. for an amount not to exceed $200,000.
Second.
Motion been made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Thank you. Agenda item 11B, extension of unissued 2011 Park and Rec bonds. Tina Stroop, excuse me. Welcome, Tina.
Good evening. I have a couple of bond-related resolutions this evening, and I also want to point out that our bond counsel, Bob Jessup, is with us, so if you have any questions for him, he'll be able to answer them for you. The first resolution we have is the resolution requesting from the LGC an extension of the 2011 general obligation bonds for parks and rec projects. In 2011, the citizens of Holly Springs voted to issue $20 million in general obligation bonds for parks and rec projects. As of today, 12.5 million of those bonds have been issued, while the remaining 7.5 million of these bonds are unissued and are set to expire in November of 2018. We have the option to actually extend those bonds for an additional 3-year period, and if approved tonight, we can go ahead and request the extension from the Local Government Commission. However, this is not a bond issuance, but will just allow us to take advantage of these bonds in the next 3 years if it's determined that we want to to use these bonds for any of the original eligible projects. So I'm asking for approval to go ahead and get the extension from the LGC.
Is there a cost on that?
Actually, until we issue the bonds, are you just talking about like a tax increase?
Not just the cost of the extension?
No, there is
such a
no
thing?
cost. No.
Okay.
We just send the application into the LGC.
Other questions or comments?
We all look at the money man.
What?
Well, I'm looking at the money man over here. No,
Oh, hi, money man.
If we don't extend it, we can't use it.
Right, so
It might take 3 more years to see
Yes,
what we want to
and
do.
it's not, it doesn't tie us, if we get the extension, it doesn't tie us into actually
Right.
using them, but it gives us the
I just want
option
to make
that
sure we're
they're
on the
still
cost. I
there.
didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments? If not,
Motion to adopt Resolution 18-18 requesting local government commission to extend the time to issue general obligation parks and recreation facility bonds for an additional 3 years.
Second.
motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, and stick around.
I'm still there.
11C, agenda item, new business resolution for the intent to apply to the LGC for approval of $40 million general obligation bonds for the purpose of improving the town's transportation systems. Tina, again, please.
Okay, that's the second resolution I want to talk about is the intent to apply to the LGC for the approval for, to hold the 40 million bond referendum. This is basically the first step in getting the bond referendum on the ballot in November of 2018. So we've reviewed and I think the town council has also reviewed the need for the transportation improvements and considered all the alternative means of financing the desired improvements. And it's been determined that to finance at least part of these costs through the projects through the issuance of the general obligation bonds. But in order to hold the bond referendum, the town staff needs to apply to the LGC for approval to actually just go forward with that. And if approved by the LGC and there's going to be a subsequent public hearing in July, a referendum would appear on the November 2018 general election ballot. So the registered voters in Holly Springs could approve or vote yes or no as to whether they want to approve the $40 million in bond. So your approval tonight is needed for the town to let the LGC know and apply for the application, or submit the application to the LGC for approval, just so we can get all the requirements met, because there is a very strict timeline between now and the November election. And I think we'll have to get, just the timeline is such a strict one because we do have to make sure that the Board of Elections, their deadline is met also. So.
Questions or comments?
Go ahead.
I should say, before we go through the motion, just want to make sure that folks who are watching, we got a consultant. They went through a lot of different numbers. We felt comfortable that this is a fiscally sound proposition our town could make for much-needed road improvements. The road improvements have not been decided, but we have some things that we could look at. So that we know that we've done a lot of homework to get to this point.
Yes.
And once we move things forward, when is the timeline when we'd start to share more with public? What is on the table? For the bond?
I actually think I would have to defer to Kendra maybe for that.
Yeah, so at the next meeting, we're going to move towards getting a transportation bond committee established that will help guide the process. And we're just staff was suggesting a couple of council members, a planning board member, somebody from the chamber. We would like to get a DOT representative as well as a Campo representative, since they will be our hopeful funding partners going forward. So we want to get them in as a stakeholder early on. But once we get that group, that will help guide the education, messaging, and outreach. I think we have to do, there's a few other steps with the LGC that maybe John or Daniel, we all know what those are, but there's a few of those steps. But once we get this group going, and then we'll start, that will be the advocacy group that starts to get the word out.
Okay.
And the map and the projects and, you know, really what the message is. So I think between June 5th and November, that's when you'll see a lot of work going on. That will be the window of time.
Is it premature at this point to talk to someone that I may be with tomorrow in DOT? Should we wait until we get a little further down the line?
I think telling them, it's just a lot of the same priorities we've had for years, but maybe mentioning it wouldn't hurt. And then we're always talking to them about the
Secretary.
the bigger,
Yeah.
the roads that we need partnerships with.
So hold on, wait,
No, I
talk.
think that any opportunity you get, it never
We'll be there tomorrow, that's why I asked. Okay. I could do that, depending on. Okay. Just checking.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Do you have anything to add? Okay, all right. I think
We good?
Motion to adopt Resolution 18-19, a resolution of intent to apply to the Local Government Commission for approval for the town to hold a $40 million transportation bond referendum.
Second.
Motion been made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Good job, Tina. I'll follow through tomorrow, see what happens. Preliminary, right? Okay, other business. I just have a couple things. Number one, I gotta always say crosswalk safety. That hasn't changed a bunch. And also had the opportunity to talk to a seventh grader this last week for some time in my office who had been very physically abused and bullied. And we're working with the school board, working with the other people on this. Some very sad stories about bullying, as we all think we know, but it is a problem elsewhere. So we're making progress. We haven't given up. We'll never stop bullying, but we're going to keep trying. And that's all I got. Next.
I wanted to share, I was thrilled to, and Adam was there as well, we participated in the Holly Springs Elementary School White Bike to School program they had last Wednesday morning. And I was, my kids both went there. I was very involved with that school, so I was thrilled to hug the cheetah again. And once a cheetah, always a cheetah. But it was timely with the presentation tonight to see that. So it was a great participation.
Was Booster-thon going on? Or
What's that?
Was Booster-thon was not going on yet?
We were outside. I didn't go in and spend it.
Booster-thon is a fundraiser there that's a very exuberant bunch of people that...
Great school. We all have, all our schools are great. But it was a lot of fun.
It's just ironic that we had a bike safety presentation tonight. I actually got several phone calls today about an individual who's on the CBC club, on the biking club, and there's more and more people out there riding their bikes. It's warmer now, and you know, they have every right to be in the road, and I think you've got to be patient with them, and I think we're going to need to take a look at some roads, especially in 12 Oaks, that are going to need some help. So Kendra, I'll reach out to you probably tomorrow to see if there's anything that we can do, because there were ironically two complaints today in 12 Oaks. And so just be aware, there's the bicyclists are out there, and it's warm out. It's 93 degrees today.
Well, and I think what's important is we keep having these cycle enthusiasts come back and just talk, even if it's briefly, to remind people that how do I say this? That, you know, yes, they have every right to be on the road, and why, and what you can do as a driver, and about the 4 feet distance that you need to stay, and things like that, and how, you know, everybody, and you'll hear people say, well, some bikers don't follow their rules and this and that, and these cyclists are very, you know, they're willing to listen, they're willing to work, and they're, you know, they'll go back to their friends and share the things they've heard. So we really appreciate that they come to us, the cyclists, and they tell us, hey, well, let us know what we can do, and we'll let you know what you can do. So anytime, we really encourage them to come and share some information, share areas where they see the most problems, if it's 12 Oaks or Avon Ferry, and we can spread the word as citizens in our neighborhoods to say, hey guys, please be extra cautious out there.
Exactly.
So.
What else?
Holly Grove Elementary School, I believe it is, has a really cool Memorial Day celebration, Friday, May 25th. I think we were all invited. I've actually personally never been. Looking forward to this
Really
year.
nice.
But just wanted to put that out there for everybody if you've never been or want to go again, May 25th, I think 9 a.m. at the elementary school.
Yeah, it's very moving, really.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's
I'm
really
just going to say it's the best event of any school that can put on anytime, any place, anywhere.
For Memorial Day.
And the kids, I cannot tell you, they sit on the tarmac, if you will. The sun's coming down. They don't make noise. Every grade is by themselves, but they're booked up. And then the presentation is great. And then if you come, you will see an airplane or two flying over. And it's a wonderful event. So thank you for bringing it up. It is a great event, and you're all welcome to come. There's no cost.
See if I can sneak my students out from next door. And I believe we do, this is Adam here, the salamanders will be starting before our next meeting. Is that, when they're first?
June 2nd?
Yeah, so
Second.
before our next meeting, the salamanders will have their first game, so that's gearing up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that on our website? Do you know?
If it's not, it can be.
Could it be?
Yes.
I would just suggest.
Can you send us those dates, Adam? Thanks.
Okay. Anything else?
Just want to extend my appreciation to staff for all the hard work in the budget workshop last night, Parks and Rec committee meeting last week, the town manager search. There's a lot of extra work going on, and I know all 6 of us up here really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yep. Anything else? If not, interim manager's report.
Manager's report. I've got a few things tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Good.
First of all, I would like to just kind of piggyback off what Peter said. Thank you, council, and thank you, staff members, department heads, for I think we spent 3 or 4 hours together last night going over the proposed budget. So that was an exciting time, and I would encourage, if you have any other questions, feel free to follow up with town staff. Also, thanks to everybody who helped celebrate the ribbon cutting for the 12th annual Farmers Market a couple Saturdays ago. That was a fun day. I believe we had about 1,200 visitors, which set a record, as I understand it, for opening day of the Farmers Market.
Great weather.
Awesome.
Yes. A little bit more good news. Our town finance department received the certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting for, I'm not sure how many consecutive years in a row now, but they are the recipient. 70th.
70 years.
So that is for fiscal year 16-17. And I'll just read a little bit what that means. So the Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. The CAFR has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. That's taken directly from the news release that was put out by the Government Finance Officers Association. And finally, just want you to know there are 2 birthdays today, two department head birthdays, one of which is in the room here. Mary Hogan's birthday is today. I'm sure she loves me.
Birthday.
Sure she loves me pointing that out to you. And then Sean Bird in Water Quality, his birthday is also today.
All right. Isn't there another birthday coming up?
Who?
Yeah, they're twins.
Daniel?
I don't know. I have no clue.
We spend so much time together, we should probably know these things,
Although I'll be downtown, you got my wish already.
That's right.
I think there's cake at 3 though.
Oh.
Come early, we'll be here anyway.
And did you say there was a tax increase this year? or did you say no?
I did not say that. No,
What'd you say?
no tax increase.
Oh, no tax increase. I just want to check.
Yeah.
As if I didn't know. All right.
That's all I've got.
Counselor?
No, sir.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor,
Thanks
you're
for coming.
a great man for going.